And we're live. What's going on, everybody?
What's up?
How you doing, Chad?
I'm great, Mark. How are you, buddy?
Good. I'm going to go through the good people in the chat and say hello to everybody. Give them their props as they're coming in.
Tell
We
them all
got
I said hello and I love them.
Oh, they already know that. They already know that. All
Except most
right.
weekend ditch picklers in there.
Yeah, he's in there. Actually,
No.
I just I just took care of him. I saw him in the chat room making a request for stuff. So let's say hello to everybody. I see 3+1 outdoors. What's going on? Avid fisherman, how are you doing, Dana? I see Catfish Regulators, Catfish and Pappy, a great crew member. Christina Dunnigan, wondering if Marcus Lilas is growing just fine and dandy. Cindy Stokes, what's going on, Cindy? Creole Catfishing, what's up, Jeremy, my brother from Louisiana? You know, I bet you it's getting hot down by him.
I can't imagine. It's hotter than Dickens here, man. I can't imagine down there.
Holy smokes. I was in Fishin' Chicks live stream today while I was taking a little break from working, and somebody in there was from California. I forgot the user's name, but he said it was 110 degrees out there.
Oh, wow.
I was like, pass on that. I'm not too fond of the heat. Dale Hayslip, what's going on, Dale? I'm going to make sure that Betty doesn't give you the band hammer this week. I want to apologize for her. She was talking on the phone, and I guess her ear hit the band hammer. I don't know how she did that, but Dale, I apologize for that. Ernie Brown, what's going on, Ernie? Fins and Fines, how you doing, Bob? Fishing stuff, what's up, Keith? How you doing, buddy? Keith, you know you always got an open invite to be a guest on this show, but I understand.
Or you can come on the bait shop. That would be awesome.
This show.
Awesome.
Awesome. Fish Smack. We had Fish Smack on Panfish Nation last week. It was a good show. If you haven't checked it out, I think you should. You guys would like it. Trey's a good dude. He's got a great channel. Check him out. Georgia Fisherman, what's up, buddy? D, what's going on, D? Getting hooked on D Fishing, another great crew member. Oh, look at that. She's progressing. She's got the new icon. Every month, Chad, you know, every month you're a member, you get a different colored icon. I got some new emojis, too. I'm going to be adding a couple of fun ones, too. So I have them. I just need to add them. Haven't had a chance to do that.
I should be getting the new icon then, because I know that I joined the cool squad member about at least a few minutes before she did. So I am I have more seniority in the crew than she ever has. So.
Hooks and Hammocks, what's going on? Chris and Telly, they got out on their boat today. It was exciting to see them out. Jared Pruitt, thanks for checking out the channel and the show. Jason Lamb, the man. J-Dog's Gone Fishing. What's up, J-Dog? John Boy's Catfishing. Justin's Fishing Fetish. What's going on, Justin? How you doing? Hope you and the whole Fishing Fetish family's doing good. That includes Gabby. Laughing Cats Fishing. That's Thomas Littlepage. In case you didn't know that, Chad.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I'm talking to
He made sure that the Chad knew.
The social butterfly of the catfishing family, Chad Fields.
That's right.
Everybody loves you for that. Mad Catter Catfishing. What's up, Richard? How you doing, bud? Maurice Kaysen. What's up, Maurice? Hope everything's good in Tennessee. Mike Irvin. What's up, Mike? Muskrat Adventures. Muskrat's got his kids tournament this Saturday. I look forward to checking that out. If I'm out on the water, I'll be tuned in. I may not be chatting, but I'll be watching. I'm looking forward to that. We got Nolan's Fishing Adventures. That's a new one. Hey, Nolan, how you doing, sir? Thanks for checking out the shore. Palmetto Cats. What's going on, Kevin? How you doing? Philip Williams. Welcome. Robert Andrews. Ryan Bortz, Blue Collar Fishing. What's up, Ryan? Ryan's doing good work on his channel. He's got the videography all figured out, I believe. Unlike me, I'm still working on it, but we'll get there sooner or later. Sean Abney, the Bullock Experience. What's going on, Kelly? How are you? Wait, people are moving around. The Weekend Angler. What's up, Josh? Tim Molina. What's up, Tim? Also, his crew badge is advanced to the next level. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Tirador Arco. What's going on, Al? It's got to be hot where Al's at. He's another New Mexico person. That's got to be smoking hot. I wonder if you ever get. What'd you say, Chad?
I said I couldn't do it. I'm too sensitive.
Me too. I think it's because of my size too. I don't know about you. I can't handle it.
This small figure? Come on.
Uncle Lou, what's up, Uncle Lou? Want to be outdoors. Another one that's progressed in the crew. I appreciate you guys. I am going to go through the list of people here again. We got Addicted to Hunting. What's going on? A new one. Thank you. Art's 1 Ton Fishing Club. What's up, Art? How you doing, buddy? Catfish and Dreams. Brandon. I don't think I got you the first time. Catfish and Pappy. Christina Dale. Ernie Brown. Jared Pruitt. I think I got everybody. Oh, James Dockery Fishing. Hello, James. I want to say hello to Betty. I know Betty's watching. I want to make sure I say hello to Dee, and I want to make sure I say hello to Katie. You guys are awesome. Thanks, as always, for all your support. I think I got everybody for once.
Yeah,
most everybody.
Yeah, I'm always one up in you, Mark.
How's it going?
To all my wife and all my sisters.
Tip the hat.
And
hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Catfish and Crappie podcast. Today, we have a very dear friend of mine, a guest, an accomplished angler, recently took second place at Patriot James Tournament, proven everybody wrong with every breath he takes. Chadwick Fields, what's up, my friend?
Oh, just living his dream, Mark. Waiting on this spawn to get through so we can get back on this stuff because it ain't been pretty lately.
Yeah, I think we're in spawn here too as of last week. I got reports from a guy I know on Facebook and talked to once in a while that last flathead he got was spilling eggs all over the deck on his boat. So that's always a pretty good sign that they're either going in real soon to spawn, that is, or they're already there. So yeah, it'll slow down. You know, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. My experience dragging baits for catfish is extremely limited. So this show is hopefully not just to educate people who don't do it, to give me a leg up in trying to go after some channel cats on the Fox River in the next couple of weeks while I'm waiting for the flathead bite to come back into full swing for the post spawn bite, which I love. That's where I get all my big ones, post spawn. Did you know that?
No,
I do. I don't know if it's probably the spots I fish more than anything. So,
I mean, if you're going to catch them, you're going to catch them sometime, right?
How long?
So far, mine's been pre-spawn. So
how long is the blue cat spawn out by you?
Normally it's a couple weeks, and it seems like they're not all at the same time, right? Typically, you're catching the small ones right about now, but I haven't even been able to do that the last 2 times out. The only thing I did catch one small one, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, but everything else has been channel cats. I know a lot of guys are catching the flatheads and stuff right now still, but and I've known some people that were catching some blue cats, but not near as many fish right now as people would normally be posting and talking about and stuff like that. So definitely starting to see the slowdown coming on.
It'll happen.
Yeah, about July 4th, everything will start picking back up.
Well, good thing is we still got channel cats. I don't know how the channel cats bite is out where you fish, but I know over here it's either channels or flatheads, and channels are always present except during their spawn, which you can still get them to bite and pretty easy too. And we spent their spawn up in Mendota, so I was pretty happy about that.
Well, after Mendota, it's just not the same though. So.
Actually, it is. Lyle had asked me that question, and my answer to him was the first time I went out, I got onto a bunch of channels, and a 7-8 pound channel cat isn't as exciting as a 16, 17, 20 pound plus, obviously, but you there's those nuances that you kind of got to pick and choose. I mean, it's the same reason why, I chase crappie, not just to eat. I think it's a fun game of chess or panfish. It's kind of getting in touch with my roots, and channel cats definitely has its own thing about it. And if you can step back and look at what you're doing and what you're experiencing, I think you can find appreciation for them as well.
Right. And I joke about Mendota, but it is true. Half time, if you ain't catching something, you can at least try to get on some channel cats and have a fun day.
Exactly.
Tearing into a mess of channel cats is always fun.
It is. And you know what I had for dinner last night?
Channel cat
and crappie. It was very tasty. I had it for breakfast too. Nothing like cold fried fish out of the fridge for breakfast. It's near and dear to my heart.
Love it.
So let's start talking about the topic at hand here. Dragging catfish baits. How'd you get started dragging baits for catfish?
About a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's been coming up on 2 years. I just bought this boat, and I entered this tournament called the Rising Sun Tournament. All right, huge tournament, about almost close to 200 boats that year. I think last year was actually over 200 boats. And me and a buddy.
Well, let's stop here real quick.
Okay.
So you had a new boat, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the first boat that you started fishing out of a boat in, correct?
Yeah, I mean that was mine. Yes,
that was yours. Okay, fair enough.
Handful of times in other people's boats, right?
Well, it's a different experience fishing with somebody else in their boat who's done it and doing it yourself. I can attest to that.
Oh, absolutely. And it was so different, especially, not knowing what I was getting into. I heard fishing tournament. We were like, hey, that kind of sounds fun. Note, never get in the biggest tournament in the area. I mean, for hours away. There was no other tournament this big until you get down towards like Owensboro and Mississippi and stuff like that, or down in Tennessee. Huge tournament. Pulled up. I didn't even have any real rod holders on here. I had a couple that I had bought from Bass Pro Shop. Kind of like they're almost like the kayak ones those guys use, but nowhere near as nice. Like rod goes down, and so does the rod holder.
Like the polymer / plastic type ones.
Those. Right. So we pull up the first day of this tournament. The boats just line the river bank and all that kind of stuff, and pull up next to this boat, and didn't have my rod rack, didn't have my monster rod holders, didn't have most of this gear that I'm fishing with now. And the guy looks over, and they're sitting there and they're getting their poles ready. He looks over and he's like, "You doing a bass tournament?" Man, my heart sunk a little bit. I was like, I'm sitting there like, is this guy serious? So we go out and fish. It's a 2-day tournament. And all we could do was to anchor up and that kind of stuff. We didn't know anything about all these other methods of fishing. So we anchored up, and I think the first day we weighed in 2 channel cats. Like 4.5 pounds is all we weighed in the first day of the tournament. The second day, we missed the check-in and got disqualified. But the nice thing about it was where we stayed was we were right next to tons of other fishermen, right? They were fishing this. They were seasoned. They've been doing this a while. And I ran into and met my now pretty good friend, Mark Blavel, who I'm sure at the time was like, what are these dudes doing? They need help. So he's talking to us, giving us some tips. And we exchanged numbers. He's like, let me show you how to fish. And I'm sitting there, I'm a man. I'm like, oh, I already know how to fish. I put some bait on the hook and I throw it out, right? Well, I met up with him and learned how to drag baits. He taking me out. He showed me how to vertical drift and all that kind of stuff. But I was so mesmerized by dragging baits. Absolutely love it. It has turned out to be my most favorite method to fish. So, talking with him, he's given me different pointers, showed me different stuff, taking me out several times. I fished tournaments with him. And every time I go out with him, I learned a little bit more about it. So it's been awesome getting to meet people like him who had showed me, there's more to it than just throwing out a line and, figuring out if they're going to bite or not hours later. It's moving. It's reading your river, reading the bottom. There's different structures and everything down there to do. It's really fascinating what you can learn when you really want to dig into different ways of fishing and what they bring to the table, right? So
cool. So that's how you met Mark, huh?
That is how I met Mark. He felt sorry for me.
Is that what I was going to just say? I was going to say, I've come across a few guys like that too at a time. One of my earlier crappie fishing adventures was this Eastern European guy kind of saw me struggling, and he kind of stepped up, gave me a few jigs, showed me kind of what to do and some pointers, and that's kind of the same story you're going through. So, I bring that up just so, everybody out there in chat, if you, and listening to the podcast, if you come across somebody like that, help them out, man. They'll remember you forever. So I even remember this guy's name. This guy's name's Arthur. I still see him out on the bank every now and then. I'll offer him to let him get in the boat, and he won't go. He's like, no, I'm fine right here. He's got a bucket full of crappie ready to go. Usually a walleye or two in there. He does pretty good. But yeah, he's a good guy. So I still see him from time to time. That's a good thing. Weekend Angler says, I know Chad likes to drag baits, but I've heard a rumor he has a very nice anchor at his disposal. Is it true?
It is very true. While we were in Mendota, I was gifted a brand new breakaway anchor that the Weekend Angler done a build for me. We're putting it out on this channel. I inspired him so much. Yeah, I was going to grab this, but here we go. Here, I actually have it right here.
Anyway, everybody in chat to run down
Grass carp. Yeah, he made me this nice breakaway anchor, and I don't know if I can get it in there, but
very nice anchor.
It does say the Chad on it. It's got an angry face right there in the middle of it. I have used this a few times already, so some days the water just don't cooperate, and all I think you can do is anchor up. So
we got a couple people that came in the chat. I see two old vets. That's always a great to see two old vets out there. What's going on, my friend? Catfish Weekly, how you doing, Lyle? Thanks for sending everybody over after the great Catfish Weekly show. That was a great show today. Bottom Feeders hooked up. That's a new one. Welcome to the channel. Of Vanessa Kitty, what's going on? Brad Cadell, what's going on, Brad? If you guys need sinkers, message him. Bottom Feeders hooked up. I think hopefully I didn't miss anybody else. If I do, I will. I see Micah Hood. Hey, what's going on, Micah? How are you? I believe Micah, that's my next door neighbor. What's going on, bud? Very cool. So what was the first time? Well, yeah, let's finish the story about the 2-day tournament with 200 boats for your first time out fishing a tournament.
Yeah.
You said you weighed in 2 pounds of channel cats the first day, or was that total? 4 pounds.
The very first day we weighed in, it was 2 channel cats. I think it was, I want to say 4.4 pounds was our official weigh in on the first day. Second day was, like I said, it was so foggy. And being a new boater, and I even followed Mark. We launched and went downriver to the check-in, and I was following Mark, and we actually ended up losing him halfway down through there and got lost. It was so foggy you couldn't see really 2 feet from any side of the boat. So once we stopped, he got about 20, 30, 40 yards ahead of us, and that following his lights, they were gone. I ended up beaching the boat up on a log, and it took us a little while to get it off there. By the time we got there, they disqualified us because we weren't there in time to check in. So we didn't even get to fish for the tournament on the second day.
Okay. I got some more people here. Mr. Chavez. Sorry I missed you, buddy. I would never forget you. I just didn't see you. Mr. Gadget Fishing with Squirrel. Catfish Heroes. What's going on, Sean? Sean's been out fishing with Epic. Hooks and Hammocks, Surf Fins, Catfishing. All right. Tim Molina. I said hello to Tim, but I can't say hello to him enough. All right. So you lost him. And where did you place that first tournament?
Pretty much. I mean, it was probably like 170th. I don't know, something like that. It was down there. There was people that didn't weigh in at all the whole tournament, but so it was something to be proud of, at least
Absolutely.
I guess to be on the board, right? So I have learned that you always weigh in, whether you have one fish or nothing. You always weigh in at a tournament.
So how many tournaments have you done since?
Oh, I'm probably in the last year and a half since that one. I'm probably pushing into 20, up around 20 range. I do a lot of the local club tournaments and stuff like that. I refished the Rising Sun last year, and then I've done a couple of the stuff like Patriots tournament and stuff like that. So, I would say probably right around 20.
Very cool. So I think you're hooked, right?
Yeah, they're fun. You bring out the competitive nature in you. You just got to be careful not to not let it get too much competitive. You got to make sure
I
you're having
get it.
fun.
Yep, you always have to have fun while doing it. So the first time you actually was in the boat with Mark, how did that go?
Well, let's see. He didn't yell at me too much. I don't think I backlashed any of his rods, and I think I only broke off one or two of his gear. So it went pretty good, but we did catch a fish that day. I think it was me, him, and my buddy Ed, and we caught, I'd say, close to 15 channel cats. It was a channel cat lake, big channel cats. But we had a good day, and like I said, it was more going over the technique, and it was amazing to be out with somebody like that that says, well, we're going to catch one or two here, but when we hit that point, get ready. And sure enough, I mean, it was like because he lives for that, right? He studies different times of the year, and that's his practice lake. He's like, I know when we're going to hit them. He's like, and then once we get here, we won't catch any more fish. We'll turn it back around. And just sure enough, that's the way it was, right? So pretty amazing to have somebody with that knowledge that is willing to give you anything you want to teach you. So
That's cool. That's somebody who just pretty much loves what they're doing, loves the sport, and
Yep.
wants to see everybody, love it just as much. I mean, look, we got 62 people in chat that probably love the sport just as much as we do, Chad.
Absolutely do.
Very cool. So, all right, let's get on to you telling us how to drag bait. So, like I was saying, I hope to get out on the Fox during the spawn and drag some baits. Probably I got a good 10-mile stretch I want to try, maybe 2 passes, maybe 1 pass, and see how it happens. I figure it'll be a good way to kind of get an idea of, rather than going from spot to spot, of what the bottom of the river looks like at a grander scale while fishing at the same time. So that's kind of my whole idea behind it. And plus, it doesn't hurt to catch fish.
I will apologize again for all the noise around here, Mark. I am outside my house.
Actually, it's not bad. And on my end, it isn't bad. And for those of you listening on the podcast at home or in the car or cutting lawn, how I always say, whatever you're doing, or out on the bank fishing, Chad is standing outside in his boat. So if you guys hear his neighbors or the dogs and all of that stuff, you know what's going on. I appreciate him taking the time to get all set up and doing all of that stuff. So thanks, bud.
I figured this visual would be a little bit better than just going through the talk of it. So maybe people can visualize some stuff too.
Okay, so let's talk about the gear. What kind of gear would one need to get started in dragging baits for catfish?
First and foremost, I would say a good trolling motor. When I bought mine, I didn't know what I needed. I thought for this small of a boat, this one would be great. But when you fish current, and don't laugh at Mr. Lyle, because I know you don't call what we have current, but the power drive 12 volt, it really honestly isn't enough unless it's dead of summer or I'm fishing a lake, right? Make sure you have enough power to do what you need to do. Besides that, fish finder unit is not necessarily a must-have, but it's good to have so you can see what your depths are. I use it more for that than I do anything, even marking fish. That's not what I'm typically looking for when I'm dragging baits. Do I like to see fish down there? Absolutely. But seeing them doesn't mean that's all the fish that you're going to see. They're going to be up on that structure hiding. They're going to be down in the mud. You're not going to see every fish. I went out for a few hours on Sunday. I marked tons of fish. The only fish that I actually caught was a little bitty channel cat that was just coaxed in mud. So more than likely, I wouldn't have seen that little fellow on the depth finder. But being able to see ledges, being able to see debris on the side scans and stuff like that, that's helpful. Besides that, obviously rod holders and some kind of rod rack. There's tons of different kinds out there. This one's homemade. I made it out of a ladder rack.
Let's talk about the rod rack a little bit, because I do have rod rack envy. I really kind of like it. Chad had built that himself, correct, Chad?
I did. A buddy of mine had a set of ladder racks off of his truck. He's a roofer. He had it set in his backyard, gave it to me. I basically cut them in half, cut a couple L brackets out of steel, and mounted them to my VersaTrack on my boat, and then just put my rod holders down right on top of them with the mounts.
And I've seen it in person. I've seen it in person, people. I mean, it is homemade, but it's as good, if not better, than a lot of the rod racks I've seen out there. It was really, really a cool idea on Chad's behalf to put that together, and I do have some rod rack envy. Real quick, I want to say hello to TC2 Cool. He says he says hello, Mark. I believe he's saying new to the show. He's on podcast 18 on Spotify, and he's catching up. Thanks for checking it out. It's always good to know there's people listening and on the other end of the spectrum. So welcome. I appreciate it.
But yeah, Mark, I mean, the two things that I like about this is it's all aluminum except for the L brackets that I used for the VersaTrack. So it's not super heavy in the back end, but it is strong as can be. I mean, I can put it all my weight. I could probably hang off this thing and it wouldn't bend. And that's saying something. You know how big of a guy I am. But I ran I should say me and my brother ran electric and stuff through the channels of it and everything. That's the other thing I liked about it. It's not solid. I got channels that I ran electric through it. So I have lights and stuff hanging off of them. So it's pretty cool. I like it. I got the standard. I got 6 across the back. So
yeah, I liked it so much. I've been checking out Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace looking for used ladder racks. I can't find them.
It works, you know. The only pain in the rear end thing about it versus something like the multi-bars, which I've thought about getting, is, you know, the multi-bars don't have all the center room. So if you have, you know, a Mendota, my motor prop got full of weeds and stuff like that, and I had to climb back there and get it all done. So you either had to climb over, under, or around to get through it, right? So that's the only downfall I would say to this rack.
It's like anything. I mean, there's always a trade-off. So if you can live with it and it benefits your fishing, you know, a lot of times they stay, at least in my book.
I've got a lot of fish off of it. I'm happy.
That's all that counts. That's all that counts. And you just mounted your rod holders right to the top, or did you have to get bases? How'd you do that?
No, I went ahead and got the bases just because with a ladder rack, I mean, if it was square tubing, like a square tube aluminum or something like that, you could just go with, you know, hold down through them and bolt them through. With this, there's weird looking channels that go through it, so it doesn't screw down, you know, right through. So you wouldn't get a good
base to it, a
good base to it underneath it. So yeah, I went with the bases.
Yeah, I've installed a few of those on buddies' cars and stuff for the kayaks and stuff, and yeah, that channel is kind of strange, so they can use all their different proprietary stuff, and one's different from the other. So you really did a good job on that, and you got those. Okay, so you got the rod. Told you I got rod rack envy here. So you got your rod holders, and you said you got 6 of them mounted up on there.
Yeah, mounted on the rod rack, I have 6, and then I have rod holders that go down each side for, like I told you before, I do a lot of suspend drifting as well when the current's a little bit heavier. So if I can't drag, that's what I'm doing there. But yeah, I have them pretty much around the boat. But 6 on here because most of the tournaments that I fish, it's a 6 rod limit. I probably could have put 2 more on there, but I don't need it. So this is my normal setup for when I'm fishing.
Hey, it works, so that's good. Right. So what kind of rods do you like to run? Not necessarily the brands, but like the weights, the lengths, all that stuff.
For dragging baits, I like a 7.5 foot medium. I'm a medium heavy. Because it gives a little bit of that flex on the tip, that where when you are dragging them baits, it actually typically will help pull stuff, pop it over, versus going with a heavier, even a medium that has just too much bend in it. A medium heavy seem to have just about the right tip on most of them. Obviously, every rod's different, but the ones I've came across, they're about perfect, like me.
Kevin over at Palmetto Cats wants to know, is Chad going to keep the same style setup on his new boat, or will he be reinventing the way he does things?
I've been thinking on that. My original thought was multi-bar. But looking at the boat, the way it's set up, I really don't have even the room for the bases on it. So I have a few other ideas that won't be exactly what I've got here, because I also want, thinking of what we just talked about, right? Whenever I have something I need to do around the engine or something like that, which hopefully not, is not too often, but like I said, it's a pain to have to move all this stuff, climb over, under, around, all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually have something in mind with a bar rod rack that will be kind of, when you look at multi-bar, right, you can adjust them and move them. I'm thinking about something similar to that once I get it going. So it'll probably be a bar across the back of it.
Okay. I know. Doesn't Dieter run rocket launchers in his?
I don't know.
I think I could be
Is
mistaken.
that how he's catching all this fish? I thought it was chicken. I didn't know he was using rocket launchers to catch them all.
Yeah, chicken might have something to do with it, but we won't. We're not going to go there. We're not doing the chicken talk tonight. We do enough of that talk. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure you'll let me know what you're doing once you have it figured out and that boat's
Yeah,
in good
like
hands,
I said,
so.
I've got some thoughts in my head of what I want to do. It's just figuring out what's the best method to do so. I love those multi-type bars.
I do too.
But if they don't set right, especially on that type of boat, what's the point, right? It's going to be waste my money. And I mean, I could always put them on here. I could always buy them and not tell D and be like, I'm going to buy them for this. And, oh, darn, they don't work. So I might have put them on this.
Hey,
right?
if she gets mad at you when you buy them, you can always just send them on over here. I'll be happy to put them to use. So
that woman just says bye. Yeah, we work hard for what we do. But yeah, so I mean, that's the basic. Is 7.5 foot medium heavies is what I like to drag with. I like a 7,000 reel. I do have some 6,500, just because I've started getting into them a little bit more because of the line counters.
okay.
Especially
And the
for
capacity too, right? Line capacity has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, line capacity on the 7,000 is more why I like to go with the 7,000s. Not that the 6,500s. I use 30-pound test, so I always thought I had to go 40, 50, whatever. I found the 30-pound Andy Monster is just phenomenal line and does everything I need. That was not your tablet, G. Y'all got me in trouble now.
Mr. Gadget Fishing wants to know what kind of jello you use on your chicken, Chad.
Anyway, here's a blooper award when I get beat to death here in a minute. The Chad is primarily a live cut bait type fella. Have I used chicken? Yes, I have. Do I use it very often? No, I don't. But if I was going to use it, strawberry or cherry, whatever it is.
I have never used chicken breast. I've used chicken livers.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Everybody's doing it.
Maybe I'll do a video of shame one of these days. So keep your eyes peeled to my channel if you see me do it. So it should be interesting. You'll see a
sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures.
Hey, during spawn, it might be something to keep me occupied. Self-loathing video, right?
Right. There you go.
All right. So you're running, and you were saying you're running Andy's 30 pounds. I'm guessing that's mono, correct?
Yes.
I imagine a stretch helps too. And what kind of depths are you dragging baits through?
It depends, Mark. So, I mean, there's days that I'm up in the shallows, obviously, up at Mendota, but on a river, though, 10 to 15 feet is probably about as shallow as I'll go. I might put one way up there, but typically it's going to be deeper. My starting point is typically 30 to 35 foot. And the way I run my boards is going to tell me if I need to adjust, right? So I typically have better luck around that 30, 35 foot mark, but sometimes they're up in the shallows and that's where you got to go. The deepest that I've probably dragged baits is 45 to 50 feet. And we have some 60, 70 foot holes in the Ohio, but I've just never had any luck out there. There's not a lot of drop offs or ledges or anything like that on them. So I really don't fish them all that much. I'm normally fishing that 35 foot because that's typically where the ledges are starting to fall. So.
And how far back are you usually dragging baits behind
All
the
right.
boat?
So we're going to kind of start going through. I want to go through how I release the rods first. Okay. And I'll tell you that because it's going to vary. So my first 2 rods that I'm going to put out are going to be these 2 center rods. These are my long lines. Okay. And that's actually why I went to the line counter. If you don't have a line counter, I would tell you to go around half a full.
Lyle says, stop talking to chicken crap. Sorry, Lyle. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, Dad. So my very first 2 are going to be, like I said, the center ones are going to be my long rods. If you don't have line counters, which I've just now gotten them, so I've never had them, I would say let out half your spool. Maybe even more, right? You want those 2 lines to be very, very, very far back there. With the line counters that I have now, I stagger them where I'll have one, say, around 200 feet, and I might have another one 225 or 240, something like that, right? So they're a little bit staggered, but they're way back there. The next 2 that I will deploy out will be the next ones out. These are going to be my outside rods or my outside planer board. So it's kind of backwards. You would think inside planer board, outside planer board, but it's not. Your outside rod is going to be your inside planer board. Okay, that makes sense. And I'll tell you what.
How far out you have it, right?
Exactly. So what I'm going to do after I've got these going, and sometimes what I'll do actually all the time, I'll get these 2 going, and then I'll start deploying this one. I'll cast this one out, and I'll sit there and I'll let it fall all the way to the bottom. I always hold it to where I know it hits the bottom, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it get tight. I'm going to give it 2, 3, 4 pulls, let the line out, so I know that it's starting to get back there, probably about 30, 40, 50 feet behind it before I clip a planer board on it. Okay. And then once I let that go back, I'm going to let the planer board go back. Stop. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, my outside planer board. I'll stop this one, stop that one, and then I'll do my inside planer boards. I do need to backtrack a little bit because I forgot to say one of the most important things before you start dragging baits is to get your boat lined up, right? You don't want to start throwing rods out if your boat's not moving. You want to get, if you're in a lake, if there's wind, go towards the wind, right? Nose to the wind. In a river, most of the time you're going to be dragging upstream unless it's dead of summer where the current is sometimes so dead in the Ohio pools, you can actually drag downstream and be perfectly fine because there's like 0 current. Sometimes it's like a lake out there. But 90% of the time I'm dragging upstream. It helps pull those boards out. Get that. What's that? There's a fancy word. You probably know what it is.
Drift sock?
No, that's not a fancy word, Mark. But drift socks are helpful. If your boat, your butt, the butt of your boat's going all over the place.
Okay.
It helps stabilize your boat. But what I always do is I get my trolling motor going in the direction that I want. Like I said, depending on the time of the year, most of the time I'll start it out about 0.4, 0.5. That way I know it's going where I want it to go while I'm getting the boards and the lines all out. And then I can adjust the speed depending on what the fish are telling me. But like I said, middle one, then my inner one's going to be my outside board, and then my inside board on the very outside of the rack here. Typically, when I'm deploying the boards, a lot of people, and it depends on what I'm looking for. A lot of people will keep a nice tight grouping where they might have the inside board 5 feet or so, maybe 10 tops outside of the boat. And then their next board 5 to 10 feet, depending on, you want equal spacings with it. So, or to try to get around equal spacings. So around 5 feet, 5 feet, or 10 feet, 10 feet. Now there's times where I might have my outside boards 30 feet outside the boat, but it's normally when I'm not sure what they're doing. And I'm searching for them to see, are they up in the shallows? You know, if I'm at 35 feet and I put the board 30 feet out, I might be at 20, 25 feet over here. And I might have this one over here at 45 feet.
So
right?
you're pretty much just kind of you're searching for them where if you're targeting them, you know where they're at. You want to concentrate your baits in one area. So
if I know that if I know most of them are in that 30 to 35 foot range, I want a nice tight grouping. But there's certain times of the year where you're like, I can't figure out where these daggone fish are, and all of a sudden you move your boards out, and all of a sudden this board over here just keeps getting hit. What does that tell you? I need to move more to the channel, right? I need to go deeper. And once you find the grouping, then you can move those boards back in and be, that 5 to 10 feet on each side, right? Or 5 yards, something like that.
Tim Molina has a question. He says, honest question, does it depend on the fish or the current?
So, go ahead.
On probably either the spread or the direction you're dragging baits.
So I would say it depends on the time of year. Like early spring, you're not gonna really drag too much unless you have a 112-pound thrust and some really good dragging weights to keep you down there, right? This time of year we've had I think it was about 1.5 miles, 1.8 current. They could be anywhere. Those fish are not going to be scared of that kind of current. They swim it every day, but if they do go down into the mud, they're probably behind some structure and stuff like that. If it does get to where they want to hide and they rest, right, because some of that current pushing on them, that's what makes the difference of trying to figure out where they are. When you're using your side scan and you're trying to locate these fish, is I might have some structure over here that they're hiding behind, but if I don't have the boards out there finding it, like say, a lot of people don't have side scans. So how do you find those fish with a boat, right? On mine, I have it. I could probably, tone it in a little bit faster than without it. But if I didn't, I'm gonna put those boards to try to locate those fish. Once I find them, I'm gonna move that boat over to that more of that depth and start bringing the boards back in a little bit.
Betty says, Chad, do you ever suspend fish with boards?
Suspend with boards?
Yep.
I have never heard of that. No.
I've seen Chris Souders do that a couple of times on his show, so that looked pretty interesting. And we'll get to suspend fishing.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I know what you're saying, but no, I have not.
Okay.
See, something we can all learn.
So we get the spread figured out, whether it's narrow or wide, and your reasoning for that. How to use your side scan, all of that stuff. Let's get to the business end. I see you got some weights in your hand. Can you describe what those are and how they work and so on?
Yes, sir. So
remember, we're on a podcast here, so you need to be descriptive, Chad.
I will be very descriptive. So when it comes to drifting weights, there's a ton of different brands out there. A lot of people even use just the solid pencil sinkers. If you know what I'm talking about, the solid pencil solid lead. There's one called, like this one here is called a structure snake. I don't even know what's in it. It's not lead. It might have some BBs or something in it. This is one of the ones I started out using that Mark kind of showed me about. Started using these. They work pretty well. I never had too many problems with them. You're going to get snags with anything. They make these. Here's a couple different brands. One is made by Junior Proctor. I got these from him. They're like the paracord type. Okay. Drifting weights.
So how long are those? Those look from here, what, like 12 inches?
Yeah, this one here is about 12 inches. There's no foam up at the top. It's kind of like beads all the way down through it.
Okay.
You have just a snap swivel on the top here, or a swivel on the top that goes on. And then you have what's Jimmy Smith's brand. I forgot the name of it
Cooper
now.
Drifters,
Santee
I
Cooper.
believe, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Santee Cooper Drifters. Kind of the same material. BBs all the way through it. And then they have the breakaway here if you get snagged up and stuff like that. If you pull just hard enough, they'll pop off and you keep your rig. Ones that I've started getting into through Chubby Fish are these cat dragger. They're reel them up. They're cat dragger sinkers. And they have the lead all the way down through here. And then
At the
this
bottom,
is all
right?
hollow at the top.
Okay.
So it kind of helps them stand up a little bit
Keeps
more.
it upright. Okay.
Yeah, and all of them are about the same length. Obviously, the structure snakes, depending on what weight you get, depends on the length of them.
Okay.
There's very long ones. The other thing with these is figuring out the weight you need, right? Lakes and very low current. These are ounce and a half that I'm using that Junior Proctor makes, all the way up to 3 and 4, 5 ounce with a little bit heavier current, right?
And speed has a lot to do with it too, correct? Because Tim Molina wants to know what speed you're dragging at, so I figure I'd get both of those questions.
But it depends on your current, right? If you only have an ounce and a half, if everybody goes back and watches he's fishing and stuff, the one that he did where he kind of went through the peg floats versus the demon dragons, the weights that it takes to hold those down, right? It really kind of clicked that, hey, if I've got a mile-an-hour current and I've got a peg float, a foam peg float that takes and holds almost an ounce of weight up, plus my bait, and then my speed, if I'm pulling 0.5, that has a chance of actually pulling my baits up off the bottom, right? So I want a 3 ounce or a 4 ounce weight holding my baits down off the bottom. So you gotta want to think about that. If you're just pulling creeks or pulling lakes, stuff like that, ounce and a half, 2 ounces is more than enough.
Okay.
If you're pulling in a little bit, heavier current, you may want to go 2.5, 3 ounces of weight. So, most of the time when I'm dragging baits, I'm still learning. I told you guys, I will not claim to be an expert at this. I have learned a lot in the last year and a half. Colder water is, I'm typically that 0.2, 0.3. I'm just barely chugging along. Warmer water, 0.4 to 0.5, 0.6, but, the more you hear and the more you talk to people, the more you learn, the more you try new things is, catfish are fast. They might be big and ugly like me, but they're a lot faster. They're chasing down fish like skipjack and bass and other fish that really swim very fast, right? So when they are chasing baits, and that's another thing is when we were talking about figuring out what they want and where they're doing, is also figuring out their speed. That they might want to be chasing down a fish, so they might want to chase down your bait. So doing 0.7 to 1 might be a good thing, or you might jump it up to that for a little bit and then bring it back down, and vice versa, and just figuring out where they want. I normally, like I said, 0.4 to 0.5. Summertime, I'm really doing that 0.5 most of the time.
Yeah, and then Fishing Chick asked, the Colorado River runs about 8 miles an hour. How many ounces would that be? I think Lyle would be a little better at answering those kind of
12
questions.
pounds.
Yeah. Lyle, I think drifting with one and big donkey weights, like I've heard them called, would be your best bet. I don't know how the Colorado River looks, but the parts I've seen looks more akin to trout than catfish, but I could probably be probably mistaken. So.
You're right. And you talk to Lyle in places like the Missouri River where it's running like that. The Mississippi has a lot heavier current. Obviously you're gonna need baits, or you're gonna be floating your baits on top of the water. You're gonna need decent sized sinkers if you're gonna try something like that. But that's not to say that it can't be done. If you have a powerful, there's people that have big trolling motors, and a lot of people use their kicker motors.
Yeah, kicker motors,
right? So
they'll use their main motors too if they can afford the fuel bill. But
yeah,
And the hours on the motor. All right, so we got the weights figured out. Now those weights, they're hooked up to, if I'm not mistaken, or correct me if I'm wrong, your standard Santee Cooper rig, correct?
Yes, sir. Let me grab one. Yeah. Hopefully you can see this one. So the way I run mine is a sinker slide above my on my main line, right?
Okay.
Thank you to Mr. Muskrat for telling me about these. But these quick clips, I absolutely love. I make these pre-made leaders for if I'm bored or anything like that, and I'll sit down and make up a couple dozen before I go fishing, and then I have them ready to go when I want to go fishing. Same thing with my Kentucky rigs, my double hook rigs, stuff like that. I have them all in the plastic baggies individually, and I'm ready to go. I set these up, my leaders up a couple different ways. I use peg floats, and I use the Demon Dragon type floats, different kind of spooks and stuff like that. Different sizes. I know we've talked about in some chats and stuff before. If I want it on the bottom or something like that, I'll use just a no knot snell with the float all the way to my swivel here, and I just clip these on.
Click right
I use peg floats with the Versa rattles. That's another good option.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do it without, right? The thing that's nice about the different floats is they will help keep your bait up off the bottom.
You got to make sure you got a big enough float to keep your bait off the bottom too. I know a lot of people make that mistake, at least when they're anchored up. They'll put a big old bait on there, and the Demon Dragon or the float isn't big enough or buoyant enough to hold their bait up like they're.
That is very true, but you got to remember too, Mark, that you have current that's helping with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're pulling it, this is helping keep the bait up a little bit. Now, one thing I've been playing around with is, people talk about, well, what if they're laying on the bottom and they, all that kind of stuff. Well, sometimes I'll have the hook right up by my sinker, right? If I notice they're more in the, they're not biting they're in the mud. If I move this up, where this is going, that just lets my bait come back down, right?
Comes back down.
So even if I've got a big old float that's, one of the styrofoam ones or whatever, the closer I move this to the swivel and away from the hook, this bait falls back down a little bit, right?
Gotcha.
Versus, right? So if I move it back to the hook, it's going to go back up a little bit more or flat, depending on the size of the float that you use. Now, this is a smaller one, but I have other ones that maybe an inch bigger, and they might hold another quarter ounce, right? And be able to lift up a little bit more. And it also, like you just said, depends on what the size of the bait that I'm using. If I'm using, little bitty chunks, it doesn't take a whole lot of weight to keep it, or a float to keep it up. But if I'm throwing a big old skipjack head or a big old shad head, or even maybe a whole half a body or something like that, more than likely, I'm going to need a big thing to keep it up off of the bottom of the floor.
So basically, you want your line in a V at the bottom, and with your weight being the actual where it meets, right? That's the basic idea, and then you can tweak that from there on whether or not you want to adjust it past the float to how close or how far above the line you want it. So,
and what I would suggest doing is when you have a couple baits out, is put one a couple inches away from the hook, another one a couple more inches, until you figure out if those fish are active, they're going to come up and eat. If they're going to be laying there, you might have to smack them in the head with the bait, which you're going to want to move that away, right?
Yeah, like Sean at Catfish Heroes is saying, which is basically what you're explaining, is you want to cover water.
Absolutely.
Right? Cover water and cover the water column. And once you find a fish, you should pretty much dial it in there, right? Am I mistaken?
Exactly. That's my method of doing it.
Cool.
Like I said, there's a lot of people that have been doing it a lot more years than I am that might have a little bit better, quicker way of dialing it in.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, if I'm going to find out, like I said earlier, if I know that if I start getting blue cats hitting on my right side, right, and over here I'm getting hit by channel cats, I'm going to get away from the channel cats and go after the blues. I'm going to move deeper, or vice versa.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's vice versa, right? Those blues and stuff will be up on the flats even, or stuff like that.
Catfish and Dreams. Brandon asks, legit question. Do demon dragons cause a kink or a pinch point and weaken the line, threading them through all three eyes like you had?
I don't think they
basically
do.
when Chad showed the demon dragon or his float, he would run the line through the front eye. It's actually a Zara spook. He ran it through the front eye, through the belly eye, and then out the back eye, so he can slide it up and down. And Brandon's question is, does it cause a kink in the line?
Does it make a kink? There might be a small, you can see a little small kink here. Does it make that big of a difference? Not that I've noticed, and I've never had a blind break because of it. A lot of people you'll find they'll get like electrical tape or something like that, and wrap it around so it doesn't slide up and down on its own. But I've not had a leader line break, and maybe that's because I use pretty heavy leader line, but I've never had one break. Not because of that.
And how often are you checking baits while you're dragging them? I guess my real question is, are you losing a lot of bait whenever you're getting through any brush or anything like that? Because if you don't have baits in the water, you're not going to catch fish, right?
Depends on how lazy I am that day. Or if I'm tournament fishing, I might check it every half hour, 45 minutes, right?
Okay.
Because like you're saying, there's money on the line then, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing something because they get knocked off. Fish come up, swipe them, knock it off. You hit structure, and it sometimes just hits them right and knocks it off. And then you reel it in, and you think you had a bite that you missed or something, and that wasn't the case. But either way, if you don't have baits on there, it's not going to be productive, right? If I'm out leisure fishing, I might go an hour and a half. Depends on, like I said, how tired I am, or if I'm just out there just kind of relaxing and just wanting to be out there.
So
if I don't have enough bait, if I don't have much bait, I'm sure it's not going to waste all my bait that I have. So
that's a pretty good explanation of dragging. Now, what's the difference between dragging and drifting?
So the difference between dragging the baits and drifting the baits is literally, to me, and hopefully I'm not wrong, is dragging baits or drifting baits is you're just drifting along with the current speed, right?
Or the wind, right?
Or the wind, using that to your advantage. That's what I did Sunday. I actually just suspend drifted down the river, and with that current, I just used my trolling motor to keep me at the speed that I wanted to. We had a 1.5 mile current.
And keep your lines from getting all messed up. Now, are you dragging baits while you're drifting, or is it always just suspending?
No, normally when I'm doing that, I'm just going to suspend the baits right off the bottom. I know you can.
Okay.
I am a snag master, and it just gets me frustrated when I get into that kind of stuff. So I've learned to just do the spin drift with that.
I may be mistaken here, but I remember a time when you broke your better half's pole snagged up. Didn't you do that?
No, that is still to this day. We have no idea how that got broken.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, the one that I broke was one of mine. It was actually on the 1-versus-1 with me and Roger, where I had a massive branch of some sort that I just couldn't break it off, and it kept coming up until my rod broke. The other rod, like I said, I went fishing. It was fine when I put it in here. When I got home, the tip was broke off. So
thank you for clearing that up for me, Chad. Because I was curious about that.
Thanks for reminding me. I'm hoping that Dee fell asleep in there and didn't see this part. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I think she's still here.
Real quick, last thing, real quick, Mark, on the dragging baits is get yourself a set of good planer boards.
Okay.
There's tons of different ones out there. Obviously, everybody knows our buddy Uncle Lou. I've been using these for several months now and love them. I have Junior Proctor boards, love them. There's Bear planer boards and Cat planer boards and original planer boards. There's a lot of good planer boards out there. You got to find one that you like.
I think you're in trouble, Chad.
Oh, crap. We need to get this show to keep going, buddy. But
I got a set of Junior Proctor's planer boards. I used them a couple of times I went out. I liked them a lot. I may need to pick up some for Uncle Lou's. I don't do enough of it for right now, so maybe in the near future I can do that. I am looking for a set of Crappie planer boards if anybody interested in making some and having me test them out. Hint, hint. You know how to get in hold of me.
Uncle Lou, just needs to be a little bit smaller, man. And we could have
probably quite a
Crappie
bit.
planer board.
I almost ordered a set of offshore ones today. I probably should have done that.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, offshore is another set that's out there. But most of them would pretty much do the same thing. But you do need to figure out what kind of clips you want.
SK says Chad cutting him out. He's in his backyard. No,
I'm in my driveway right now, SK. I got off work and was like, I figured
he might have created a monster when he goes in the house by answering a question he probably shouldn't have answered, but he might be in trouble when he gets in there. But other than that, he's in his driveway.
Yeah.
Chad was kind enough to take the time to get all set it up after a busy day of work today, so I really appreciate it, my friend.
Now I'm getting nervous. I heard the door, and here she comes.
Uh-oh.
But two things that are important on these probably the most important, besides obviously they float and they float to base you need, is to have good clips. Like these are the Scotty clips. What Betty was talking about earlier, if you were going to use them to suspend baits off of your boat, which I really like that idea the more I'm thinking about it. They make other clips that actually have a little nipple on the inside here. Mm-hmm. Now, if you put it on the outside of here, when that fish is going, you can pop that line off and be good to go. On the inside of the nipple of it, that will stay on your line until you get it to the tip of your pole. And then, what Betty was talking about earlier is suspending those baits like that. Mm-hmm. You could use planer boards behind that like that out from the boat. And they not slide and all that kind of stuff too bad. The only thing I don't like about using those for these is when I'm hooked into a fish, and I've actually lost fish by putting it behind there, by pulling too early when the fish is running with it. And then when you actually do get it up here, you have to stop, pull your line up, unclip it, and then you kind of create a slack on your line. Yeah. You don't want that, right? So I like these because you can pop them off very quickly in the water, and they just shoot back to the hook, where the fish is, and you reel them in with the fish. So I like the Scotty mouth a little bit better than the other ones for the most part. For cool. most of my applications.
So anything else you want to include or let the people out there in chat know?
No, I'd say, like I said, experiment. Leader, we've talked about leader length and stuff like that. People talk about shorter leaders in the wintertime and longer ones in the summertime. I'm a whatever I make kind of guy, and I adjust my peg floats accordingly on that, and figure out what's fishing. Because I can put the bait exactly where a 12-inch leader would be with a 24, right?
Tim Molina says you're on a roll. Ask him to explain bumping.
Nope.
We're gonna have it. We'll do.
Wrong guy.
Come on for that. I got a couple of real good ideas. One of them's in here right now. Good friend of mine. We'll see if we can't talk him into it. So
that's absolutely wrong guy for that one. Still learning. I do have a bumping rod. Me and D got have not had the really chance to even try it. So I'm not one to sit here and lie to you and say I know anything really about it, other than the basic philosophy of it. So.
All right. And Paul Frick says he always puts the line behind. I always put the line behind the nipple when you break off. You don't have to chase down boards. That's probably a good.
That's fair.
That would be kind of a pain to have to reel all that stuff up. So, you got, what do you got going on this week on the bait shop? Thursday nights on YouTube, Fishing with the Chad channel. That's Fishing with the THA Chad. For those of you listening on a podcast, check it out. Give them a subscription if you're not subscribed. Link in the description. What do you got going on this Thursday?
That is not fair to Dockery because he won't even know until about 5 minutes before the show, just like I won't. Have started reaching out to a couple of people. I'd like to start getting some more guests back again. It's been a while. Just been so busy, man. It's kind of hard to reach out and get it all set up. So sometimes it's just easier to go in and make fun of you and Lyle and whoever else is in chat and stuff like that. But would like to get a few more people back in there on the base shop as guests, but we'll see what's going on now.
Cool. Betty says, this is Catfish and Crappie talking about the channel. You're going to have to drag for Crappie this summer, Chad. It's fun too. Yeah, I trolled for him this weekend. I actually got a bunch of it on video. I had a blast. And you know what? It really helped to locate the fish. I had such a hard time finding them or getting them to bite. Once I started trolling for them, man, I was on them. It was a real good day. I think I'm going to have Betty on for that show. That'll be cool to talk to her about it. She's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to crappie fishing. I'll always like talking to Sister Betty. So, Chad, I want to say thank you very much for sharing your time and your knowledge with everybody.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I appreciate it, man.
I want to thank everybody in chat for hanging around. We still got 54 people in chat, which is awesome. I want to thank everybody out there in podcast land for subscribing and listening. I want to remind you to check out the description. Chad's links in there. There's other links to follow me on social media. We really appreciate it. One more thing that's coming up. I am going to be on the Beer Fish Fanatics podcast. We're going to do it on Wednesday, I believe. And keep an eye on my social media. I'll post links to that if you guys want to hear somebody actually interview me. It should be interesting. So it's an adult, just like it says, it's Beer Fish Fanatics. So it'll be a good show. I really look forward to Kit and Grady are good guys. They're a heck of a fisherman out there in Iowa. So I want to give them a plug too. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Chad. Sorry if I got you in trouble with Dee, but
yeah, thanks, bud.
You'll live. She loves you. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks, Chad. Bye-bye.
See you guys.